Just because someone is sincere does not mean they know. And just because someone's mean does not mean they don't know.
Just because you have a disagreement doesn't mean you can't be friends, you can't be lovers, you can't be, connected, you can't be on the same team. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, Next Level University Meetup Monday, week number 48. We are creeping up on a year since we have started this every single week. We have not missed a week yet. Things are amazing. Today, how to grow your influence to impact more people. So whether you know it or not, you are influencing and being influenced by other people. And if you have an idea, if you have a thought, if you have a product, if you have a service, at the end of the day, you have to find a way to influence people in order to make a decision. A great example, if I want to watch a movie with Alan, I say, Alan, there's this new movie out. Come see it with me. I have to figure out what influences Alan in order to get him to the movie theater. I know Alan pretty well, so I would say it's motivational, it's inspirational, and it'll have you fired up. That would probably work. But if I said there's, it's a war movie and there's a lot of battles, blah, 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 that might not be Alan's cup of tea. So understanding what influences somebody is unreasonably important no matter where you are in your journey.
The most important part of this entire thing is to realize that 24/7, 365, like Kevin already mentioned, you are either being influenced or you are influencing. So since you gifted us with your most valuable asset, which is your time and your attention, we are now able to influence you in a more positive direction. But remember, our intent is to help you, not everyone else's intent is. And the other thing I want to say before we move on to the first principle here is intentional energy always influences unintentional reactive energy more. So the person who walks into a room, but before they walk in, they say, my intention is X, Y, Z, they're going to have more intentional energy, and therefore they're going to be the one who influences. Whoever has the most certainty tends to be the one who influences.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Mm-hmm.
So Alan and I have created something that we call the Influence Quotient. Okay, and for short, it's IQ. And it's 5 things that we have determined that really are the deciding factor in whether or not you can actually influence somebody. So number 1 is belief. How much do you believe in the message, in the service, in the product, in the words that you are saying? It's very hard to influence somebody when it comes to something you don't believe in. Again, and we'll get into this, but just imagine something that you dislike strongly, and then imagine trying to sell that or communicate that to somebody else. Number 2 is character. Who are you when people aren't looking? One of our goals is always to over-deliver. So if you have ever heard us on the podcast and then been on a call with us behind closed doors, it's always our goal for you guys to say, like, they have really great character. They're good people. They're patient. They helped me. They weren't pushy. Any of those things. At the end of the day, you only get to see somebody's character when you get to them, okay? Number 3, expertise. How well do you know what it is you're talking about? For us, it's podcasting. For you guys, it might be something completely different. But how well have you mastered that? How much have you studied that, right? Are you the expert in the room when it comes to that? Number 4, communication. Can you effectively communicate all of these things? Can you communicate the belief, your character, and your expertise to influence somebody into making a decision? And I just want to make it clear that this isn't necessarily buying something. Again, no matter where you are influencing and or being influenced, okay? And then the last one is perception. Perception, unfortunately, tends to matter more than anything. If I pull up in a red Ferrari, you are more likely to listen to me than if I was to pull up on a bicycle. The perception of the red Ferrari in your mind links up, this guy's probably pretty successful, right? And we're living in a social media world where a lot of people with perception are winning because they're really relying on the perception.
Now, that's only predicated on you valuing Ferraris.
Valid.
So if you value Ferraris a lot, and then he pulls up in a Ferrari, you're far more likely to value him subconsciously because you associate the Ferrari with him. You associate that he's more successful, even though he might be in a ton of debt. So it's really important to understand this. So if you have a notebook, please take it out. There's 5 things. Again, belief. How much do you believe in yourself and in the person's, places, things, and ideas that you are influencing others with? Okay, character. Number 2, character. Who are you when no one's looking? You have core aspirations, which is your goals. You have core values, and you have core beliefs. We already talked about belief. When no one's looking, are you staying in alignment with your values? Do you recycle the same amount behind closed doors as when people are watching? Okay? Expertise. How well do you, again, study, practice, and teach your specific craft? Okay, I don't know anything about cars. I don't know anything about baseball. But when it comes to humans and success, how well do I study, practice, and teach consistently in that arena? Communication, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Everyone has a different language they're speaking, and I'm not talking Chinese versus English. I'm talking emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual, and we'll get into that. But who are you talking to? What do they value? And how well can you communicate what you believe in and who you are and your expertise to them? And then again, perception is really important, which is how well do you embody what they already value? If I'm a bodybuilder and I'm really, really fit and you're super into fitness, you automatically perceive me higher. And we're going to go deeper into each of these. But just think about it this way. Every single one of you has someone in your life who perceives your value at a level 2, and you can only influence them at a level 2 because of that. I have some people in my life, okay, I'll just use Kevin as an example. Kevin perceives my value at a level 10, and therefore I have more influence over him than someone who he perceives their value at 2. Okay, so these are all factors, and this is happening all day, every day with each and every one of you. And if you want to be a stronger leader, stronger person, you want to, shape companies, culture, society, community, you're going to have to drive to 50. That's what we call it. The IQ, influence quotient. Are you a 10 out of 10 in belief, 10 out of 10 in character, 10 out of 10 in expertise, 10 out of 10 in communication, and 10 out of 10 in perception? And we're going to give you an example of that as we go through here. And the real truth is you never actually get to 10, but you can get better, more percentage.
And if you've ever said to yourself, I wish that person would listen to me, I wish that person would take my advice, the reason they're not is probably one of these. One of these probably isn't high enough for them to have the certainty that your opinion, your expertise, your communication, whatever it may be, they might not believe that it's actually valuable, so they might not take your advice. How can you convince somebody of something that you don't believe in? At the end of the day, you have to believe in something 1,000% if you're going to effectively communicate it and influence somebody. So picture this. You go on Amazon.com. You find a product that you are super, super excited about, whatever it may be. You wait the 2 days, which is incredible now that it only takes 2 days for something to get shipped to you. Some days 1. And when it comes to your house, you open it up. You try to use it, and the thing is a hunk of junk.
Remember those cameras?
Yes, it's a great story. Alan and I, before we moved into the studio, we bought 2 supposedly 4K HD cameras.
Amazon's choice.
Yeah, they were like $700 a piece, and we were like, all right, cool, let's do this. We got them. It was terrible. It's like shooting on a potato. Terrible. So how difficult would it be for us to sell you guys, to influence you guys into buying that? Imagine me going through that. Like, yeah, they're easy to set up for sure. You can't really see through them at all. Like, if you're doing anything that requires going on YouTube or taking pictures or videos, it's probably not going to work super well. Okay? You guys have all ordered something, gotten it, and been disappointed in it. Imagine trying to persuade somebody else to buy that thing. You don't believe in it. How are you going to do that? So at the end of the day, influence is really an exchange of enthusiasm, right? It's very easy for Alan and myself to talk authentically about the podcast because we believe in it. It's very easy for us to talk authentically about the community because we love you guys and we believe in you guys and we don't have fans, we have family, right? It's very easy for us to influence because we believe in it so much. So imagine that person in your family, or maybe it's a close friend, right? Imagine that person that doesn't value your opinion. They don't listen to you. They don't believe what you believe in. Imagine what would happen if they started to value your opinion more. If they started to believe what you believed. If you went to them and said, if you're a 10 out of 10 and you believe in something, right? If you're a 10 out of 10 and you tell somebody something about a product or a service or whatever it may be, they're far more likely to believe you. Okay, so if you have somebody in your life who doesn't value your opinion, this could be one of the reasons why, because you don't believe in it enough. One of the best ways we get new listeners is from you guys. You guys and gals tell your friends about us and say, whatever it is, these guys are really good, they're down to earth, they're humble, they're heart-driven, but no BS. And if you believe that at 10 out of 10, it's pretty likely that those people are going to tune in and listen to us. Okay? So this is what I want you to do. This is a good exercise. figure out what your least favorite movie is. A movie that you hate, that you literally said, I'm never going to get that hour and a half back, and go try to influence and convince somebody else to watch it. That is exactly what a lot of people are doing, and that's why they're struggling to do it.
The only other thing I want to say about belief is there's 3 beliefs you must have to really sell something, especially if it has to do with yourself, right? So I have a client of mine, he's from the UK, and he believes in his brother so much, and his brother's an electrician, and his brother does some incredible work, apparently, in that arena, and he wants some extra money, and he really wants to go and sell his brother more. He wants to sell the electrician work more. What I find interesting is that he's the head of marketing for this company, and I basically realized that you believe in your brother's product and services more than your own because you associate your product and service with you. It's a self-belief issue. So sometimes I remember one of my early mentors said, Alan, see, when you're coaching, you're selling a process, not a product. You need to disconnect it from you. You're selling the curriculum. And the curriculum is what the value is. And so if you struggle with self-belief, just understand you're going to struggle to sell people your ideas because you're not confident enough in them. I had a client tell me once, she said, listen, Alan, I am around a lot of multimillionaires, and some of them are doctors and surgeons, and I'm telling you, these people, if you have even a shred of self-doubt, they're going to sniff it out and they're not going to work with you. Imagine you're getting heart surgery, and the surgeon that comes in isn't confident and doesn't believe in their own ability. You're going to be freaking out because this is life or death. People have us, like their lives in our hands as coaches. We have to believe wholeheartedly in what we do. Now, if you do not, here's what you do. Go make the product better. Make your process better. Get better. And when you get better, you need to believe on some level. Everyone right now, think about their favorite movie of all time. Kevin did the least favorite. I'm going to do favorite. Favorite movie of all time. Life-changing. For me, it's Good Will Hunting.
Titanic?
Fire. Absolute fire. And if you've never seen Titanic, Kevin is literally going to be like shaking you. Like, you've got to see this effing movie. This is so good. He's 10 times, 1,000 times more likely to sell that than some movie like, I don't know, Blue Streak, right? Which also is a pretty funny movie if you've seen it.
It's a random one to go with.
But belief is super important. This is the core of everything. If you do not believe in yourself, your product, your idea, your friend, you're never going to sell something you don't believe in. All influence starts here with belief. So you got to work on that piece.
Real quick, one of Alan and I's clients literally on his podcast said that he was getting on a plane, and this was in the middle of a tropical storm, and there was like 4 people on the plane, and he asked the pilot, he's like, everything's good, right? We wouldn't fly if it was dangerous. And the pilot's like, no, this is definitely a little bit risky. And I think he stayed on the plane because he's a savage like that. But I would have gone off immediately, rented a car, and probably driven down, right? Like, belief is number one, for sure.
Oh, so true, so true.
Classic.
All right, character. Now, this is the one that Kevin and I genuinely are most focused on. We want our reality, our truth, to actually be better than the perception, which is part of why we're playing the long game. But character is who you are when no one's watching. So again, who are you when no one's watching? I remember early in my journey, I had a client who worked for a company. And the leader of this company was not a huge fan of Kevin or myself.
No, we didn't get invited to that pool party.
Yeah, yeah, right, which we were very upset about. But anyways, so this person definitely was a little bit of smoke and mirrors. The client that I had was actually the COO of this company. And because I was trying to help my client, I knew the ins and outs of the business. I knew the behind the scenes of the business. Now, what a lot of you guys will realize as you learn and grow in business is that a lot of things are not what they seem when you see the reality. You know, a lot of people look super profitable, but a lot of them are in a lot of debt. I have a lot of people that I know their behind the scenes finances that appear to be very successful. And there's just a big difference between having nice things and actually creating a system of success that's long-term and sustainable. So long story short here, this client of mine, the leader, the CEO of the company, he's the COO, which is one step below the CEO. The leadership was just really messed up, and there was a lot of smoke and mirrors, and the company ended up going bankrupt. They lost their best talent because of poor leadership. Even though on the surface, this company sincerely looked far more successful than Kevin and I. And there's a lot of companies out there that appear to be successful and then they're gone. You know, one of my main mentors who buys and sells businesses with his other private equity people, like literally says, like, I don't buy businesses like Snapchat. This is nothing against Snapchat, but I want to bring this down to earth for you guys because Snapchat's character is a little bit different than a company that has a track record of actual success. So whether it's a business or a person or a leader, who are you when you take down the facade, when you're not dressed up, when you're not at your best? Who are you behind the scenes, right? We've all dated somebody who appeared to be this incredible person, and then we got really close, and we realized they are not who they say they are. We've all been there. Businesses are that way. People are that way. You got to be careful, but we don't want to be that way. We want our character to be stronger than everything else because that's the foundation. My favorite poem of all time is called The Man in the Glass or The Woman in the Glass. I've recited it to my beautiful girlfriend many times, who's right there. Emilia, I'm so grateful you're here. But basically what this is that at the end of the day, you can have all the money, all the fame, all the fortune, all the success, all the likes and views on Instagram, but when you look in the glass, you look in the mirror, are you proud of yourself? That is all that matters. And that's what character is. Character is being in integrity with self. Character is keeping the promises you made to yourself. What's aligned with your highest values? Are you who you actually aspire to be, or are you just pretending to be? And we've all been on either side of that ledger. So, the question I have for you, are you keeping the promises you make to yourself? Matthew McConaughey says this. He says, a man's pillow is his peace of mind. Woman too. And the promises you make to yourself, there are not enough police in the world to make sure you do any of it. It's up to you. It's entirely on you. Whether or not you recycle is up to you. Whether or not you brush your teeth every day is up to you. Whether or not you go to the gym when you say you're gonna is up to you. Kevin and I can try our best to influence you, but at the end of the day, you have to influence yourself, and your character is what matters most. So ask a friend. Go to a friend who's seen your truth, not your perception, but your truth, and ask them, where are the flaws in my character from your perspective? I know you love me, but I know you can see me from a different angle than I can see myself. I've done this several times. I do this often. I've done this with Kevin countless times. And sometimes it's things I didn't want to hear, but it always made me better. And so that's character.
The interesting thing about character is character comes with the length of time that you spend around somebody and the proximity. Okay, so have you ever had the chance, maybe you met a celebrity that you looked up to, or maybe you got, you did a phone call with somebody and you saw like the behind the scenes of how they really talk to people. That's character. The problem is most of us don't actually get to see people's character. Okay, like we're going to talk about perception here shortly. Social media is perception. You don't see somebody's character. You don't know if they're holding the door for their partner. You don't know how they are in real life. So that's another thing too, is like when you get close to somebody, that's when you see their character. The more time you spend with somebody, the closer to the truth you get. The truth is somebody's character. Mm-hmm. You dig?
I do. I just realized we have 40 minutes, so we're good. Okay, so we have 20
I already
left.
took care of it.
Thank you for
You
that.
didn't even see it.
I didn't.
I'm like a wizard.
He's solving problems I didn't even know existed.
Number 3, expertise. You do not take financial advice from somebody who doesn't have any money, right? A lot of people are trying to influence you when they don't necessarily have the result or the area of expertise that you value. So again, being in the public eye, like Alan and myself are, we get a lot of feedback from people. And early on, somebody reached out to Alan. He didn't reach out to me, but I heard through the grapevine. And he said, you know, you guys should stop having such successful people on and start having regular people. Like regular, you know, people that work 9 to 5s and just regular people that are going through life. And we said, well, we love everybody, no matter what they're doing. Everybody has their own unique journey and they're trying to get to the next level. But it's our goal to really help people by teaching them from the greatest people in the world. The Dave Meltzers, the Evan Carmichaels. We want to have people on that are way, way, way ahead of us so they can teach our listeners how to get to the next level. If we listen to that person who doesn't have any expertise in this field, he's never podcasted, he's never spoken, he's never been on a podcast, he's never interviewed, our product would look completely different. Now, if you guys reach out to us and say, hey, I would like it if you change this or did this topic, we're far more likely to listen because you guys are actually listeners, right? We don't have fans, we have family. We listen to family. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this or listening to this, it's obvious that you want to get to the next level of your life. We can help you get there faster.
In 3 months from today, your life can look completely different. Here's how. Group coaching. Here's what you're going to get. So you're going to get bi-weekly calls with Kevin and myself. You're going to be on a team of 10 like-minded, growth-oriented individuals. You're also going to be in a WhatsApp chat with Kevin and I and the entire team, 24/7 access to chat. Also, you're going to get bi-weekly progress reports and peak performance tracking.
Guys, this is a great opportunity for those who can't afford one-on-one coaching with Alan and myself. We have helped dozens and dozens of people get to the next level at this point. Go to nextleveluniverse.com, click group coaching, or find the link in the show notes.
Talk to you soon.
But it's impossible for you or myself to take you guys somewhere that I haven't been. I'm not going to teach you how to rebuild an engine. I'm not going to teach you how to fly a plane. I don't know those things. I've never been there. But our area of expertise is podcasting and speaking. And Alan's is the business side. Mine is the podcast side, right? But it's only the things that we have practiced for years and years and years. How much more would you be able to help the people in your life if you really, really studied, you really, really practiced, and then you really, really taught the things that you're trying to teach? If you want to be seen as an expert, and again, this goes back to character. You can be perceived as an expert and not be one, but within your character, how good are you at your thing? How much have you actually mastered your craft? Because when you do get behind the scenes, that's when it matters. When the rubber hits the road, people know whether or not you're an expert compared to them, right? So it's super important. Today, buy a book on a topic that you want to master. Every day, I try to do 40 minutes of learning, and I try to customize it to what I'm going through. So when I was learning sales, I focused more on sales. When we were focused on marketing and building listenership, I listened to Superfans by Pat Flynn. I'm always trying to listen to custom things for the stuff that I'm going through so I can increase that area of expertise.
So Kevin was privy to this. So we were recording an episode earlier today, and my mom called, and she's one of the few people on my phone that actually rings, and so it interrupted. And we ended up finishing the episode, but I called her back, and I said, "Are you good? Is everything cool?" And she said, "Yeah, absolutely, but my computer died." And she's like, "I want to buy a new computer." She comes to me when she wants to buy a new computer because I used to build computers with my friends. I'm a big-time techie, went to WPI, blah, blah, blah. The point is this. She does not call me when her car breaks down. I don't know anything about cars, and I don't care. But computers, I know inside and out how those things work. So what is your area of expertise? And more importantly, are you calling the right people for advice? I want you to be very, very careful about who you take advice from, including us. Okay? Just because someone is sincere does not mean they know. And just because someone's mean does not mean they don't know. Okay? I will take one of my mentors' advice in business, even if he's mean, over someone who's sincere but wrong. Okay, you got to be very, very careful. What is someone's actual level of expertise? And that's not based on an Instagram video. It's based on who they really are, their character and expertise. So that's super, super important.
Moving right along here.
Moving right along. Okay, communication. This one's a heavy one. So you've heard us talk a lot about PMES, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And I'm going to go into depth on that because I think that's absolutely critical to communicate. But the first question I want you to ask yourself, whenever you're entering a room, I want you to set the intention of what does the other person value? Because I'm going to communicate. You could literally try to talk to me about baseball. And I genuinely, it wouldn't be a good conversation. I might pretend to be interested, but that's not how you're going to influence me. I just don't really care about baseball very much. If you want to talk to me about personal development, though, I'm going to be all in. I'm going to be amped up. I'm going to be excited. We're going to be able to really communicate there. So you have to speak in the language that the other person values. You have to if you want to influence. So what if you two are speaking a different language? I was telling Kevin earlier that if we were born in Shanghai, we'd speak Chinese. We speak English because we were born in America. What if everyone's speaking a different language? And it's not Chinese versus English, but it is, what if one person is a long-term strategic thinker and the other person is super emotional? Let's say something, and you all are already doing this. I just want you to do it more proactively. You walk into a room and your best friend just got broken up with, and they're all in their emotions. They feel down. They're in an unresourceful state. They don't feel good about themselves. They're struggling with their self-worth. You're not going to start talking about long-term strategic thinking about success and how they can make $1 million one day. If you do, you're going to break rapport and you're going to have no influence. What you should do is bring out the authentic part of your nature that empathizes with their heart by remembering when you were hurt or left or down or felt worthless. Okay? Whenever we do these topics, we're trying to communicate in the way that will actually get through. You're not being fake, and I think you have to be careful of the chameleon thing, but there is an emotional side of you that you can bring out authentically and showcase, just like there is a long-term strategic thinker or a spiritual side. A lot of people say, oh, I speak woo-woo. So do I. And with other people who speak woo-woo, we connect big time. The question is, can you go there authentically or are you faking it? And if you can't go there authentically, I would argue you have to work on your communication skills. Communication is a skill. It's a craft. It's the craft we're most focused on. Okay, so you can believe in your product all day. You can have all the expertise in the world. You can have the best character ever. But if you can't communicate, it does not matter. There are a lot of people, think of someone you know who's super smart, but they don't know how to communicate well. So many of their ideas are not going to help others. Okay, so before entering a room, I want you to think, who's in that room? What do they care about? Are they more mental or are they more emotional? Are they more spiritual? And then I want you to go into that room with that frame, and trust me, your influence will go through the roof. Try this with a friend who you know is different than you. I want you to think of someone who kind of rubs you the wrong way, probably because they're not like you. And if you're emotionally this might be an engineer or a strategic thinker or someone like that, and Kevin's pointing to me. And then if you're an M and you're more of a long-term strategic thinker, you're more logical and rational, I want you to go with an emotional person, and I want you to try to connect where they are. You can't bring someone to where you are until you go to where they are first. Every single coaching call I'm on, I just passed 650. It's always going to where they are first. Where have they been? Where are they now? Where do they want to head? Meet them where they are. Bring them to where they want to head. Every time. Same fundamentals. But I can only do that because I've developed myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and I've gone to those deep places in each of those arenas.
You want to take them through PMES real quick?
Yeah, so physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Physical is the tangible actions that you take. So think of your central nervous system. So if I think, raise my right hand, and then I do it, that's a thought creating an action. Okay? So that's physical, taking actual action. Mental is future pacing. So you don't have to get hit by a car to know to look both ways. So you can project into the future. If I don't look both ways, I might get hit, which is dangerous. Okay, that's what scientists call projection. You can anticipate outcomes in advance without having to do them. That's mental. In the Air Force, they do best case, worst case, most probable case. Every time. You can project outcomes in advance. Sometimes you project bad outcomes, focus on those, and then don't do the thing because you're so afraid that it's going to be bad. You've got to focus on optimism, pessimism, and realism. You need all three. Best case, worst case, most probable case. So that's M. Oop. And a lot of people aren't doing that. And if you don't envision your future in advance, you're not going to build it. So M is super important. E, emotional, being present and vulnerable. This is where your relationships will really grow. With Emilia, of course, I'm going to be more E than if I'm on stage talking business. Okay? Spiritual. Are you aligned with your highest self? We all have intuition. So again, physical is action. Mental is thoughts. E is feelings. Okay? I feel vulnerable right now. What is that telling me? Right? That's E. And then S is your intuition. Those whispers, those calls that eventually become roars if we ignore them long enough. That's PMES.
Strong work.
Thank you, brother.
Strong work. I am E and Alan is M, and I think we highlight each other's strengths and weaknesses. Also, I was afraid to be around Alan because I was insecure, and I think Alan at one point didn't really think there was a lot of value that I could bring, and we've connected that. So that's all I have to say about that.
For sure. E's need M's and M's need E's. The last thing I'll say here is most people are M or E first. If you feel stuck, you most likely are ME or EM. Imagine I did this with one of my clients once. I basically said, how often during the day is what you feel like doing different than what you know you should do? You're stuck in your head. You're like, well, I feel like I want to sit and watch Netflix, but I know I should go to the gym. I'm just going to do neither. That's stuck. Whereas Kevin is EPMS. I won't go too deep on this, but he has an emotion. I feel like I want to watch Netflix, but I know I should go to the gym. I'm just going to take action even though I don't want to do it. How many times have you heard that Kevin does things he doesn't want to do? What he's really saying is I'm doing things I don't feel like doing.
For sure.
Right? So M's think they should do it and they do what they think they should do. E's do what they feel like doing, but you have to be hyper-conscious that whole process.
Amy, you have a question?
There's a question.
I see. I can read your mind. Go ahead.
I know you're so good at it. What's one of the biggest downsides of listening to unsolicited advice from those who have a high degree of influence over you, yet don't know nor try to support your goals?
It's a great question. I think the biggest problem with it is just because somebody is influencing you doesn't mean it's in the right way. And I think one of the things that I think people are afraid of is to break rapport with somebody who you have a connection with. Like some people will literally say like, I know this isn't right for me, but I'm going to do it anyway, so I stay friends with this person. So I think that's it. I think it's just, if you love somebody, you're more likely to take their advice even if it's misleading you, unfortunately.
Especially if you're E.
Or an obliger.
If you're emotionally driven, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good. You're
okay.
good. Yeah.
So I think someone can want what's best for you, but remember that they're going off what they believe is best for you. What if they have low awareness? Everyone think about this. Okay. Imagine you're 18 years old. Okay. How freaking low was your awareness compared to now?
0.
Oh, it's so brutal. I hope it is. That means you've grown. Okay, good. Imagine if you love that 18-year-old. Okay, you care about that 18-year-old, but should you take their advice? By the way, they're just telling you what they believe, but what if what they believe is absolutely wrong? So you got to be very, very careful. I think this is why intuition is so important. And what Kevin just described is basically going against your intuition to stay in rapport. When in reality, if you chose self-respect and self-integrity, you'd probably end up with more love. But you'll only know if you have the courage to do it. Trust me, I struggle. And I'll just say this, too. I remember I had to have a conversation. Many of you have heard me say this, but I love my mom to death, like so much. Like her and I relationship has evolved a lot. But she still, for a little while there, was like trying to tell me how to run my business. And I literally had to have a courageous conversation of, Mom, like, I love you. I know you're trying to help me. I know you're only telling me what you believe is best. I went to school for this. I have a master's degree in business. Thanks to so much of your support, by the way. You've never run a business. You've never started a business. You don't know business. So I'm sorry, but I know better than you do in this arena. You know more about cars. Great. I'll call you when my car breaks down. If your business breaks down, let me know. The point is that you have to have that courageous conversation, and it sucks so bad. And she really had to sit with that and like be like, you know what? Honestly, yeah. But I had to say it, and it sucked to say, but honestly, truth be told, you don't know. You don't know. And it's arrogant to think you do. So that's really, really difficult, and that was super difficult. But you got to have those conversations.
Hammer it, Amy.
Thank you. So there's a 2-part question. So do you just want me to read the first question, then the second, or just the whole thing?
Let's do first part. Yeah, because I'll forget.
Okay. How can you ensure the relationship is intact while also respectfully disagreeing with their advice or suggestions?
Oh, wow. Great question. Great question. Communication. Just because you have a disagreement doesn't mean you can't be friends, you can't be lovers, you can't be connected, you can't be on the same team. I think it's about the way that you communicate it without ego. Alan and I disagree often. Every day. Every day we're together, we disagree. But I think it's...
I disagree.
Yeah, perfect. I think it's understanding that we're on the same team. And the goal isn't... If the goal in a disagreement is to be right, then I do think you have more of a chance of egoing up versus being understood and being able to understand. I think that's probably it for me. And honestly, this is the hard truth. With some people, it will break rapport. It just will. because some people are a little bit more closed-minded. So, I wish I could say that there's a way to avoid that every time, but I don't think there is, unfortunately.
I'll answer this with a super fast story. So I had a coach early on in my journey who genuinely saw greatness in me. And he said, I was late to one of our calls, several of our calls. And he said, Alan, people like me are watching your every quarter turn. I get paid $50,000 a year, 10% of the upside of every business owner. Like, what are you doing, man? And back then, I thought he was being a dick, honestly. I realize now that dude's value in okay, I'll tell you this. My awareness has increased since then, and I value him more and more and more as my awareness increases. And I realize in hindsight that I really screwed that up. Now, my point is this. The question was, how do you risk breaking rapport? What if the relationship goes? Trust that it will come back if it's supposed to. I broke rapport with him. But I value him more, and I would love to have him back in my life because now I'm more aware. Just because someone's in your life doesn't mean they need to be there for the whole book, maybe a couple chapters, maybe just one chapter. We have listeners come and go. We have people come and go. The people who are the most aligned are going to be the ride or dies. Kevin and I have very similar core aspirations. We have very, very similar core values and very similar core beliefs. And when we disagree, we find five. He tells me his perspective, I tell him my perspective, and then we both end up better because of it. So it's almost like you have to be willing to risk the relationship in order to have a magnificent one.
And it depends where they are, too. If they're in the maintenance or nostalgia bucket, that's one thing that it might be worth risking versus a mentee growth or wisdom bucket. Hammer part 2, Amy?
What's the verbiage you two have used that's preserved the relationship while also showcasing your truth?
Oh, my goodness. One of my favorite things is I don't disagree, but honestly, I think it's vulnerability. I don't necessarily know that there's a word, a sentence, or a phrase. I think it's vulnerability and just saying like, yeah, honestly, apologizing. I would literally say that. Like, I'll ego up. So I got to interview Mark Metry for his book. I'm actually in Mark Metry's audiobook, which is wild. And on a call, Amy's laughing because she knows what I'm saying.
It's a leather bound, too.
Alan and I had a little bit of a disagreement. And I was like, you didn't even read the effing book. Like, what are you even talking about? And I egoed up in front of the team, and I felt terrible about it. I was like, oh, my God, they're going to think I'm terrible. I messaged Alan after, and I apologized. I said, hey, man, honestly, I got insecure. My ego got the best of me. I want to apologize. I hope you know I love you. I hope you know this is the greatest partnership I've ever had in terms of business, and I hope you'll forgive me. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to break rapport. At the end of the day, we have love for one another, and I know that this is meant to be, and it will be.
Yeah. That was really challenging, but it was great. And we both ended up living a more authentic life, and we drove to 5, and this is the belief that I have. There is no right or wrong answer, but there's always a better one. And the better one is usually in the middle of a couple perspectives. So the last thing I'll say, and then we really got to hammer this last point.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a quick one.
Yeah, it's going to be a very quick one. So, but I appreciate the questions. Thank you all so much. Okay.
There's another question.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow. So, and then I'll be quick on this. I told Kevin this once, I'm never 100% right. Never. But I'm also never 100% wrong. The goal is never to be 100% right or 100% wrong. The goal is to get closer and closer and closer to the truth. More percentage, more percentage, more percentage, more percentage. No one is all-knowing. But me plus Kevin, 2 minds and hearts combined, is going to be a better answer as long as we can stay in rapport. And if we can't, we can't. But we always tend to be able to because I think we're both humble.
We cry a lot, honestly. That's the answer. We cry a lot.
Yeah, there's your answer. Yep.
Genuinely. All right, what's the next one?
Does it require courage or confidence to go against what others are telling you to do when you don't believe it's best for you?
Ooh, both. Both. It requires courage and confidence. I think courage and confidence are very similar things, and I think that more than anything, I think it requires belief. You have to know that you feel aligned with what you're doing. My grandmother for a long time told me to go get another job. Like I was like, yeah, things are going well. I only have 2 clients. I'm broke. I'm, taking on debt. And she's like, well, you're going to go get another job. And I said, I will never punch a time clock again, ever. I don't care what it takes. I will never go back. I am so steadfast in that I'm stubborn. But I know that the courage and confidence it took for me to say that rubbed off on her, and she doesn't say that anymore. So I think it takes both. But early in your journey, when you're getting resistance, it's going to be way harder than when you've started to hone that. I would practice it with somebody. I would have like a walkthrough where you practice it with somebody close that you can trust.
All of this is a practice. When I was in high school, there was a statistics class where I was the only one in the class, including the teacher, who believed that the book was wrong. And my buddy Kiki, still to this day, who was in that class, is like, I can't believe I couldn't see what you saw. The whole class vehemently laughed at me, got mad at me, said I couldn't believe I was trying to prove a textbook wrong at 17 years old, blah, blah, blah. I went to Mrs. Pryor, favorite teacher of all time, and her and I proved on the whiteboard that the book was wrong. I knew it. I knew it was wrong. And everyone else laughed at me. And that's good for this last one, which is perception. The whole world can perceive you're wrong, but what if you're right? You only have to be right once. And everyone in that class saw me differently after that. Big time, especially the teacher. And so that's the really important thing. You got to fight for what you believe in. And when you're wrong, then you admit it. But I think you have to kind of believe it. You have to stick up for what you believe in. You have to. That's I'm so near and dear to my heart. Okay.
Can I hammer this
Yeah,
real quick?
hammer it real quick.
All right, I'm going to hammer this one real quick, and then you guys can go into the second portion of the meetup where you get to talk to the amazing team. All right, number 5, perception. So perception is not always reality. It often is not the reality. So there's a reason that you go on Amazon and you look at the reviews. We're getting a lot of shout outs for Amazon today. The reason you go to the reviews is because the perception of the product says it's this, it does this, it lasts a long time, it's lightweight, it's durable. The reviews tell you the reality. This died after 1 week. The extension cord's really short. It doesn't heat up like it's supposed to. It actually burned my house down.
It's all jeffed.
It's all jeffed. It's all jeffed. Perception versus reality. Okay, so a lot of people, and Alan has said this many times, so I feel like I'm stealing his thing. A lot of people say don't judge a book by its cover, but you kind of have to, especially when it comes to a thought. If you don't know something in and out, you have to judge it by something, right? Usually it's perception. Again, I've talked a lot about social media and how people win on perception. How often have you been deceived by perception? Maybe you meet somebody and they look really good and they seem really nice. Behind the scenes, they're not. A product, a movie, a service. Every M. Night Shyamalan, whatever that guy's name is, every one of those movies is terrible, but the trailers look really good. Last point. Next time you're watching TV and you see a McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Dairy Queen, any of those commercials come on, I want you to imagine if the Big Mac looks the same when you get it as it does on the commercial. That is perception, that is marketing, and that for a lot of people, they're getting overwhelmed by that and confused.
For sure. Okay, so basically, we just wanted to do this super, super fast, then we'll go to the meetup, which is going to end up being 15 minutes now instead of 20, but that's going to be fine.
Thank you for your amazing questions.
So imagine if you had, seriously. So imagine if you had, we call it a drive to 50. This is the influence quotient. What if you were 10 out of 10 in belief, 10 out of 10 in character, 10 out of 10 in expertise, 10 out of 10 in communication, and 10 out of 10 in perception? Okay, no one's really a 10 out of 10, but how close can you get? Okay, so Oprah Winfrey, you could take away her network. You could take away her money. You could take away her clothes and her cars and her team. She's still Oprah Winfrey. She's still Oprah Winfrey. She still believes in herself at a level 10. She still probably has a level 10 character from what I know, from what I perceive. She's still an expert in many things. She's still got fire communication. She's very good. And she still has a level 10 perception because she's still Oprah Winfrey. We all know her name. That's perception. Most of the world does not know Alan Lazarus or Kevin Palmieri.
Why don't you watch your mouth?
Truth. Yet. But at one point, no one knew Oprah either. So what if you could drive to 50? The key is, are you working on these things, and are you working on them consistently? And we are done.
I think it's time for me to drive to McDonald's.
Perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. We love you. Hang out for the last 15 minutes. And as always, every single time, we don't have fans, we have family.
Talk to you soon.